Welcome, everyone, to Complete Aviation Solutions Deep Dive, number 99. Today, we're plunging into some really significant aircraft orders. These are moves fundamentally reshaping airline fleets, and connectivity around the globe. Our mission, like always, is to cut through all the noise, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from the latest announcements, basically give you a shortcut to being well informed on the big aviation movements. A lot of this is fresh from the Paris Air Show 2025, highlighting some major strategic thinking by global airlines.
Exactly. And this deep dive is so important because, it's not just what aircraft were ordered. It's really about why these decisions matter. They
Mm.
genuinely impact the future of air travel, global connections, and, let's face it, your experience as a passenger. And as we dig into these, you'll start to see some pretty interesting common themes emerge about where the industry's heading.
Okay, let's kick things off then. Starting in Asia with a huge player, ANA Holdings, they've finalized deals for a very significant number of planes. But what's the strategic thinking here, beyond just the big numbers?
Right, ANA. What's fascinating here is just the sheer scope of it and the fact they're buying from multiple manufacturers. So ANA Holdings has finalized orders for up to, get this, 92 aircraft across the board. If we look at the Airbus part first, they've got a firm order for 24 single-aisle A321neos and 3 of the longer-range A321 XLRs.
92. Wow. Okay, and how are those Airbus planes being split up within the group?
Yeah, it's a big number, and the allocation is interesting too. So 14 of those A321neos go to All Nippon Airways, the main airline. But the other 10 neos and all 3 of the A321 XLRs, they're headed for Peach Aviation, their group airline. And this is actually a pretty big deal for Peach. They'll be the first Japanese airline ever to operate the A321 XLR.
XLR, right. That's
Yeah,
the one with the really long legs for an airy body.
exactly. This aircraft is, well, quite remarkable. It boasts the longest range of any single aisle out there. We're talking up to 4,700 nautical miles or 8,700 kilometers nonstop.
That's huge capability for Peach, which is generally seen as more of a low-cost carrier. So what does having the XLR mean for them strategically? And how does ANA justify this mix of different plane types?
That's a really critical question.
Yep.
For Peach, the A321 XLR isn't just about flying further. It's about potentially opening up entirely new, longer routes. Routes that usually needed wide-body planes, but now they could do it with the lower operating costs of a single aisle.
Hmm.
So they could, challenge full-service carriers on certain routes, or maybe even start direct flights to places that just couldn't support bigger aircraft before.
Interesting. So new market possibilities.
Precisely.
Mhm.
And for ANA Holdings overall, the reasons they've announced for these big, broad orders are pretty clear. It's about upgrading the current fleet, obviously maintaining excellent service, but also, crucially, speeding up the introduction of modern, fuel-efficient aircraft.
Mm.
That helps cut CO2 emissions, which aligns with global environmental goals and Japan's own targets.
Mhm.
Plus, let's be honest, it saves a lot on fuel costs. That's vital for profitability.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned a multi-manufacturer approach. So beyond Airbus, ANA made other pretty substantial commitments too, right? What else do they lock in for this huge modernization push?
Yeah, absolutely. Diving deeper into the details reveals they've also finalized deals for 15 Embraer E190 E2s, and they've got purchase rights for 5 more of those. This is another significant move because it marks the debut of the E2 series in Japan, brings a new level of regional jet efficiency,
Yeah.
and comfort.
Okay, Embraer too. So Airbus, Embraer, what else?
And Boeing, of course.
Mm.
They formally ordered 23 Boeing B787-Dreamliners and 18 B737-8s, plus purchase rights for another 4 narrow-bodies. And it's worth noting here, 5 of those new B787-9s and 10 of the B737-8s were actually options they held before. So they've now converted those potential plans into firm commitments. That signals real confidence in their market outlook, I think.
That really is a remarkable spread. Airbus, Boeing, Embraer, different sizes too. So for passengers, what kind of subtle, maybe shifts might they notice on ANA's domestic versus international routes as these new planes start flying? And operationally, managing such a diverse fleet, that must have its complexities, right? Or maybe advantages.
Well, it definitely raises that question. Operational efficiency versus strategic flexibility. Managing a fleet from multiple manufacturers, yeah, it can bring challenges. Maintenance, spare parts, pilot training, that adds complexity. But for ANA, it clearly signifies a really comprehensive approach to improving the fleet. It's designed both for boosting profitability on those busy domestic routes and for aggressive expansion internationally. They clearly see international as a major growth area.
So tailoring the aircraft to the mission,
Yeah.
essentially.
Those Embraer E190 E2s, for example, They're perfect for feeding passengers into their main hubs from smaller cities, or for serving thinner point-to-point domestic routes where maybe a bigger A320 or 737 would be too much plane. It helps optimize capacity, keeps things profitable even on less busy routes.
And the others, the Neos, the Dreamliners.
Right. So the Airbus A321neo, with its new engines and those sharklets on the wingtips, it delivers over 20% fuel savings and CO2 reduction compared to the older single aisles. That's huge. The A321XLR, like we said, it complements the wide bodies, gives them flexibility to add flights, open new routes, and it burns something like 30% less fuel per seat than older competitor jets used for long haul. Plus, its new airspace cabin promises long-haul comfort in a narrow-body jet, which could really change how passengers feel about those longer flights.
And the Boeings.
The B-787-9s, the Dreamliners, they continue to be the workhorses for the really long international flights, offering premium seats, range, capacity. Meanwhile, those B-737-8s will really strengthen their high-density domestic operations. And importantly, the delivery timelines for all of these,
Yeah.
they're spread out, starting around fiscal year 2028, going all the way to 2033. That shows a real long-term vision. It also probably acknowledges the current manufacturing backlogs. It allows them to phase these planes in gradually, minimizing disruption.
Okay, fascinating strategy from ANA. Now let's shift our focus over to Europe, another really significant order, this time from Elot Polish Airlines. And it marks a completely new chapter for them, doesn't it? Tell us about this pivotal move, their first venture with Airbus.
Yes, this one is quite striking because it is Elon Polish Airlines' very first firm order directly with Airbus, ever. They're acquiring 40 A220 aircraft, and the order is split right down the middle, 20 of the smaller A220-100s and 20 of the larger A220-300s. And the agreement doesn't stop there. It includes potential for a future increase, up to 84 A220s in total. That's a massive commitment to this new fleet type for them.
84, potentially. Wow. And the A220, remind us, that's more of a regional jet.
That's right. It's a modern regional jet designed very efficiently for the 100 to 160 passenger segment, depending on the version. And its range, up to 6,700 kilometers, makes it perfectly suited for pretty much all the connections within their European network. It lets them serve a huge variety of destinations very efficiently.
Okay, so beyond just the numbers and, the novelty of ordering from Airbus, what makes this order particularly interesting for passengers? And how do the A220's specific capabilities fit with LOT's current network and maybe their future strategy, especially thinking about that new central airport being built in Poland?
Right. This immediately brings up that crucial connection between passenger experience and operational gains.
Yeah.
The A220 is really celebrated for its operational and environmental advantages. We're talking significantly lower CO2 emissions, much less noise, which is huge in Europe, and just better fuel efficiency per passenger overall. It's a big win on many fronts.
And for the people actually flying on them.
Yes, passenger comfort. These planes are designed with modern travelers in mind. They'll have highly comfortable seats actually made by Recaro in Poland, which is a nice touch. And these seats will have powerful 60W USB-C ports. Everyone gets one. Plus, mobile device holders, cup holders, the little things that make a difference. The interiors will match LOT's modern cabin style. You'll see large overhead bins to hopefully speed up boarding, and the cabin itself feels higher, wider, with bigger windows. It just creates a better sense of space. They're even promising reliable internet on board for longer flights within Europe. Staying connected.
Sounds like a solid upgrade. And the engines, any specifics there?
Yes, the A220 fleet will be powered by Pratt & Whitney PW1500G engines. What's significant there is the geared turbofan technology. It's a key innovation behind the A220's impressive fuel efficiency, and that reduced noise footprint makes it really ideal for regional flying, especially into noise-sensitive airports.
So strategically, this isn't just fleet replacement then?
No, definitely not. This order is clearly about new growth and expansion opportunities for LOT. It strengthens their position as, a preferred airline in Central and Eastern Europe. And critically, as you mentioned, it prepares them perfectly to operate from Poland's new central airport when it opens. The A220's flexibility and efficiency will be vital for feeding traffic into that new hub, but also for expanding point-to-point flying. More flexible route planning. Deliveries start in 2027, run through 2031, and the long-term goal seems to be consolidating their entire regional fleet down to just the A220-100 and -300. That kind of commonality, it dramatically simplifies maintenance, crew training, scheduling, leads to big cost savings down the line.
A very focused approach for their regional future. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the Middle East, a brand new premium international airline making a very bold statement. What's the story with Riyadh Air? What's their approach in what's already a very competitive market?
Right, Riyadh Air, a completely new name aiming for the premium international market. They've placed a firm order for 25 Airbus A350-1000 aircraft, and there's potential to increase that up to 50 of these big wide-body jets. What's particularly noteworthy here is that Riyadh Air will be the very first airline in Saudi Arabia to operate the A350-1000. So it signals a new direction for air travel in the kingdom.
Interesting. A brand new airline, starting with just one, albeit very advanced, aircraft type. But this isn't just about planes for a new company, is it? You feel it ties into something much larger for Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. If you connect this to the bigger picture, this order directly supports Saudi Arabia's incredibly ambitious Vision 2030 plan. That plan aims to reach something like 300 million air passengers annually by the end of this decade. It's about positioning the country as a major global hub for aviation and tourism.
300 million passengers. That's a huge target. So how does a brand new carrier, starting with A350-1000s, plan to contribute to that, especially when you've got giants like Emirates, Qatar, Etihad right next door?
Well, for Riyadh Air, choosing the A350-1000 specifically is definitely a strategic move. This plane is known for outstanding efficiency, yes, but also top-tier passenger comfort. That lets them offer a truly premium experience right from the start, connecting Saudi Arabia globally. Their differentiation, competing against those established players, will likely come from focusing on Riyadh itself as a destination and hub, offering direct long-haul flights that maybe bypass traditional transit points, and by going hard on luxury from day one, aiming squarely at high-yield business travelers and tourists.
So focus on the premium end and direct connectivity from Riyadh.
Exactly. And the emphasis on the A350-1000, a very modern, fuel-efficient wide-body, also helps them meet sustainability goals right out of the gate. Deciding to rely on just one single advanced wide-body type for a new airline, it helps streamline things initially. Operations, maintenance, crew training. Keeps it simpler in the early growth phase, though maybe less flexible for really diverse routes down the line. Ultimately, it's a really clear signal of intent. They don't just want to operate flights, they want to actively shape the future of air travel and contribute significantly to Saudi Arabia's fast-growing aviation ecosystem, which, by the way, is much more than just airlines. It includes massive investments in tourism infrastructure, too.
A bold vision indeed. Okay, finally, let's wrap things up today with a significant development in Southeast Asia. An airline that's already a huge operator of a certain type of aircraft. What's VietJet been up to? What does their latest move tell us about their strategy for growth and accessibility in that region?
Right, VietJet. They've signed a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, for 100 single-aisle A321neo aircraft. And like some of the others, there's potential to add another 50 later on. What's quite notable is this agreement comes just weeks after they also placed an additional order for wide-body aircraft. So they're clearly pursuing a dual-pronged approach to expanding their fleet.
100 NEOs, potentially 150, plus wide bodies. They really seem to have a clear, very aggressive strategy for growth and for making flying more accessible over there. How does this massive A321neo order specifically boost their low-cost, high-volume model? And what does adding wide bodies signal about where they want their network to go?
That's a crucial insight into their model. Their stated goal is absolutely to make air travel more accessible, more affordable for millions of people. That directly strengthens their role as a connector, for economic development, cultural exchange, connectivity across Southeast Asia and beyond. This agreement is definitely seen as a vital step in their growth strategy, evolving into a truly multinational aviation group.
And the A321neo is the right tool for that job.
It seems perfectly suited for a low-cost carrier like VietJet. The A321neo is the largest member of Airbus's best-selling A320neo family. It offers just unparalleled unit cost efficiency. The advanced engines, the aerodynamics, it means lower operating costs per seat. And that directly impacts their ability to offer those really low fares. Right. Efficiency drives affordability. Exactly. And this plane also offers impressive range and performance for a single aisle. It features about a 50% noise reduction compared to older jets, and more than 20% fuel savings and CO2 reduction. Plus, it maximizes passenger comfort with what Airbus calls the widest single-aisle cabin in the sky. So for VietJet, the A321neo lets them put more seats on popular existing routes, upgauging they call it. It lets them open new, maybe underserved routes more economically, and even stretch into new markets that were maybe just out of reach for their current narrow-body fleet.
And the wide bodies alongside this.
Well, adding that wide-body order just weeks before this big narrow-body MOU, it really signals VietJet's ambition to evolve, perhaps into more of a long-haul, low-cost carrier model, linking key hubs in the region with further-flung international destinations, potentially challenging the full-service airlines on some specific longer routes, too. It's clearly a strategic move to serve a rapidly growing market, looking beyond their traditional short to medium haul focus.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together then. What we've really seen today are airlines across completely different continents making these huge strategic investments in their future fleets. From, expanding regional networks in Poland with LOT to launching entirely new premium international carriers like Riyadh Air in Saudi Arabia, and even a low-cost giant like VietJet making massive growth plays in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
There's a powerful common thread here, isn't there? It's this relentless pursuit of efficiency, sustainability, and ultimately a better passenger experience.
Absolutely. Zooming out, what this tells us about the broader market is that these orders, collectively, underscore a real commitment across the industry to modernize the global fleet. It's about significantly reducing environmental impact, yes, but also meeting the rapidly changing demands of air travel in the decades ahead. It really highlights that the future of aviation is being built on, well, long-term vision, significant amounts of capital investment, and continuous technological advancement, with a clear focus on both the airline's bottom line and the experience for you, the passenger.
So, what does this all mean for you listening? Well, as these new, highly advanced aircraft get delivered over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, you can definitely anticipate not just new routes opening up and maybe more flight options, but also journeys that are noticeably quieter inside, more comfortable, and significantly more fuel efficient, which feels good too. And maybe for a final thought, something to mull over until our next deep dive. Consider how this massive influx of new, super efficient aircraft might actually shift the competitive balance in certain regional markets, or could it even open up entirely new city pairs, direct flights between places that were previously just uneconomical for airlines to serve? Something to think about.